What if I told you that in 2025, a shocking alliance of powerful nations has fully stood behind Russia against the United States? Why would countries dare to challenge the world's strongest superpower? What are their motives, and what secrets are hidden behind their support? Is it political revenge, economic desperation, or military ambition? You're about to uncover the top 10 countries that fully support Russia against the United States. The truth will shock you, and some of these names will make your jaw drop. So, buckle up, stay curious, and watch until the end for the most unbelievable revelations. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Let's expose the truths they don't want you to know. Number 10, Nicaragua. You may be shocked to learn that Nicaragua is one of Russia's loudest supporters in 2025. This small Central American nation has allowed Russian troops to be permanently stationed along its coastlines under the guise of training missions. President Daniel Ortega, defiant and emotional, declared that Russia is the sword that defends our freedom from the American empire. Nicaragua blames the U.S. for economic failure, political unrest, and decades of manipulation. The alliance with Russia is emotional, driven by decades of resentment. Russia now supplies everything from surveillance drones to propaganda tools, all to strengthen Ortega's grip. Did you know Russian submarines were spotted off Nicaragua's coast in March 2025? NATO called it a provocation, but Ortega claimed it was defensive hospitality. The reality is, Nicaragua is willingly turning itself into Russia's tropical military base. Number 9, Myanmar. Myanmar's 2021 coup led to international isolation and mass human rights condemnation. The West turned its back, but Russia welcomed the military junta with open arms. In 2025, Myanmar is fully aligned with Russia, offering resources, intelligence, and even battlefield troops for foreign missions. Why? Because Myanmar feels betrayed by the world and comforted by Russia's indifference to democracy. Emotionally, the junta sees the U.S. as a liar, preaching freedom but punishing sovereignty. Russian arms now flood Myanmar's jungles, and defense trade has risen 80% since 2023. In a heart-wrenching twist, Myanmar's children are taught to praise Russian support in schools. The sad truth is, Myanmar doesn't trust the West anymore, and their loyalty to Russia grows stronger with each drone, rifle, and shipment of fuel. The human cost is massive, but the military regime sees it as a necessary sacrifice. Number 8, Serbia. Why would a European country support Russia in 2025? Because for Serbia, the wounds of NATO bombings in 1999 have never healed. Serbia's emotional loyalty to Russia comes from shared Slavic heritage, Orthodox Christianity, and mutual hatred for Western dominance. In early 2025, Serbia signed a full military cooperation treaty with Russia, shocking many. Protests erupted in Belgrade, some for peace, others cheering Russia even more. Even more shocking, Serbian officials offered airspace for Russian aircraft and intelligence access to NATO strategies via spies embedded in European institutions. Serbian media now call the U.S. Europe's puppet master. Russia, in return, promised economic investments and full military protection. Serbian citizens, emotionally tied to Russian wartime support in the 1990s, now chant Putin's name during rallies. Despite pressure from the EU, Serbia chooses brotherhood over bureaucracy. This loyalty isn't about logic, it's about legacy. Number 7, Cuba. Cuba's history with the U.S. is one of deep wounds, and in 2025, those scars have reopened. Emotionally and ideologically, Cuba aligns completely with Russia's anti-American agenda. In a shocking move, Cuba restored Soviet-era military bases and gave Russian forces unrestricted access to deep-sea ports. Why this shocking support now? Because the U.S. has tightened its embargo, strangled Cuban trade, and pressured its allies to isolate Havana. Russia, meanwhile, stepped in with vaccines, energy aid, cyber infrastructure, and direct military coordination. Joint drills near Florida's waters were caught on radar, triggering panic among American defense officials. Even more alarming, Cuban intelligence, once dormant, has been reactivated in alliance with Russian operatives. The island now serves as a critical listening post in the Caribbean. The Cuban government calls the USA colonial oppressor and labels Russia as the defender of freedom. It's a dark twist of history. Once again, Cuba is a front line in a new Cold War. Number 6, Venezuela. In 2025, Venezuela isn't just supporting Russia. They're begging to be part of a new anti-US world order. But why? Crushed by sanctions, drowning in poverty, and politically cornered, Venezuela sees Russia as the only nation that offers hope without judgment. President Nicolas Maduro publicly announced full support for Russia's global military stance and even offered Venezuelan territory for Russian naval operations. Did you know in February 2025, Russian bombers were stationed in Caracas under a strategic training pact? Behind the scenes, Russian advisors have helped control protests, upgrade Venezuela's military, and secure oil exports that bypass U.S. sanctions. Emotionally, the country sees the U.S. as the architect of their suffering, while Russia promises dignity, even if it comes at a deadly cost. Oil deals between the two nations have more than tripled. Venezuela is now exporting nearly 40% of its crude to Russia, often in secret tankers. Horrifyingly, some reports claim Venezuelan militias are training under Russian command. In the people's eyes, they've traded one master for another, but this time, one that fights back. Number 5, Syria. Syria's support for Russia is deeply emotional. After the US-backed rebels during the Syrian civil war, President Bashar al-Assad was nearly overthrown. Russia saved him, and in 2025, Syria is repaying that debt completely. Syria now offers airfields, ports, and manpower to Russian military operations. Intelligence reports show Syrian fighters operating directly under Russian command in various global hot zones. Why this deep loyalty? Because Assad views Russia not just as an ally, but as the savior of his nation. In one chilling 2025 broadcast, Assad declared, "Without Russia, Syria would be a failed state. Now we stand with our protector." Syria has signed 17 new military and oil exploration contracts with Moscow. U.S. bases in the Middle East are under constant cyber attack, allegedly from Syrian-Russian joint operations. The emotional scars from U.S. bombings, dead civilians, and destroyed cities fuel Syria's burning hatred. Sadly, while the West once offered hope to Syrians, many now see the U.S. as the architect of their pain. Russia, though bloody, offered survival. That emotional loyalty has become a war pact, and Syria is fighting fiercely in return. Number 4, China. Would you believe that China, calculated, cold, and quiet, has decided to fully support Russia in 2025? It's true, not through open war, but through financial, cyber, and diplomatic muscle. China has labeled the U.S. as the greatest threat to global peace and accuses Washington of destabilizing Asia. Shockingly, Chinese banks have allowed Russian oligarchs to move billions without restriction, and Chinese tech firms now flood Russian forces with advanced AI drones and satellite intelligence. Even more chilling, Chinese troops conducted joint military drills with Russian forces in Siberia, while Chinese diplomats vetoed every US-led UN resolution against Russia in 2025. Xi Jinping's government has openly declared that Western dominance must end, and Russia is their instrument. The emotional undertone of this alliance is cold vengeance for past Western humiliation. Behind the scenes, China secretly supplies advanced missile parts and software, pretending it's for civilian use, but leaked files reveal otherwise. Trade between the two nations has surged over 60% in just a year. Together, they challenge not just the US, but the entire Western order. If this alliance continues, the world as we know it may collapse. Number 3, Belarus. Belarus has long been called Russia's mini-me, but in 2025, that loyalty has turned into unconditional submission. Why is Belarus so deeply tied to Russia now? The truth is heartbreaking. Economically crushed and diplomatically abandoned by the West, Belarus clings to Russia like a life raft. Under President Alexander Lukashenko's leadership, Belarus has become a launchpad for Russian weapons, tanks, and troops, especially in conflicts near NATO borders. Did you know over 70% of Belarus's economy is now under Russian control? Shockingly, Belarusian soldiers are even forced to fight alongside Russian troops in ongoing battles. Protesters who dared to oppose this alliance vanish in days, some found dead, others never seen again. The emotional grip Russia has on Belarus is suffocating. Lukashenko, once a somewhat independent leader, now publicly calls Russia Belarus's soul and shield. Russian military bases have expanded by 40% across Belarusian territory in just the first half of 2025. In a shocking twist, Belarus's government announced it will adopt parts of Russian law to align more closely. This isn't just support, it's surrender masked as loyalty. The sadness is, Belarus might never be free again. Number 2, North Korea. Why would a secluded, impoverished nation back Russia so aggressively in 2025? Because North Korea sees this as revenge for sanctions, isolation, and humiliation. Russia has given Kim Jong-un a platform for payback. In a chilling turn of events, North Korea has reportedly provided Russia with thousands of artillery shells, missile technology, and manpower in exchange for food, fuel, and military upgrades. Emotional speeches by Kim paint the U.S. as a decaying empire whose time has come. In early 2025, state media even declared Russia as their sole protector. But what's even more shocking, U.S. intelligence leaked documents suggesting North Korean scientists are jointly working with Russian labs on long-range missile systems capable of hitting U.S. territories. Satellite footage showed multiple North Korean military shipments reaching Russia via secret rail lines through China. The partnership goes beyond war, it's psychological warfare. North Korea thrives in chaos, and Russia gives it legitimacy. This unexpected unity sends a terrifying message. Even the most isolated regimes can have global impact when backed by a superpower. As global sanctions tighten on Pyongyang, their commitment to Moscow only deepens. It's no longer about survival, it's about revenge. Number 1, Iran. Did you know Iran has been one of Russia's most loyal allies even before 2025? But now, their support has exploded into full military and intelligence backing. Why? After years of crippling U.S. sanctions, Iran has found in Russia not just a partner, but a savior. In 2025, Iran openly declared support for Russia's military operations, sending drones, military advisors, and crucial oil resources to bypass Western blocs. Iran's hatred for U.S. intervention in the Middle East fuels this loyalty. Shocking satellite images even showed Iranian soldiers in joint operations alongside Russian troops in conflict zones. Emotionally, Iran's leadership views the U.S. as the devil that ruined their economy, and they now channel that rage by empowering Russia even more. More terrifying, Iran's nuclear research, previously hidden, is now suspected to be partially backed by Russian scientists. The two nations have signed over 45 economic and defense agreements since late 2024, a figure that quadrupled from the year before. Together, they are reshaping the political landscape of Asia and Europe, and the US is powerless to stop them. The rise of this blood-bound brotherhood has created panic in Washington and Jerusalem alike. The world in 2025 is shifting fast, and not always for the better. These 10 countries have emotionally, politically, and militarily chosen sides. The question is, will this alliance reshape the global order forever? Like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts, and as always, thanks for watching. Stay aware.